Your friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for a video channel. This is Huck TV on the CanAm Missing Project, and there is Huck, the magnificent Great Pyrenees. Hey, yes, she's been a really good girl. We had a bath the other day. Took her to the doggy place. Yeah, it's a good girl. Oh yeah, it's a good girl. Oh yeah. And some people were making some rude comments. Oh yeah, saying, "Oh Dave, you're overfeeding your dog, and she's getting so fat." Well, there's a picture of Huck, and look how thin she is when she's all wet. So Huck is not fat at all. It's all hair. And for the people that don't know Great Pyrenees, they have 2 layers of hair. So that's what that's about. So keep your rude comments to yourself. Huck is lean, mean, fighting machine. And here we go. Well, I appreciate you being here, and we're going to keep going on this new format, see what happens. Longer version of our shows, and see what the response is. See if we get more time added to our per video watch on YouTube. Now, here's what's going to happen. Sometime in the next month, we've got it already in process, that we're going to have a show that's between 60 minutes and 120 minutes long. It'll be live. It'll be pay-per-view. It'll be between $2.50 and $6 to watch us. We're still working on the price. And it'll be about something regarding missing 411 that you've never seen before. And we'll see how that works. We've got to do something to offset what we're losing on YouTube. It's just the way of the world. We'll still be here in some form or another, but probably twice a month we're going to run something like this to offshoot what we've lost monetarily. And we're well on our way to getting it done. I'm hoping that you guys will come over and watch it once or twice a month. We really need the support. And my books are available on our website. Missing 411 books. Do not buy them on Amazon, eBay. You'll get ripped off. They're charging between $25 and $200 for my books. Go to our website. That's NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Go to the online store. Buying's easy. So thanks for being here. We've got a theme for this show. Yeah, a theme. And that theme will become readily apparent. The first case involves a young boy named Justin Staley. You guys don't like to hear sad stories? There are no sad stories today. So hang in there, watch the entire segment, and I guarantee you're going to be surprised about this. This is Justin, 2 years old. The story's in Missing 411 North America and beyond. He went missing September 3rd, 1981 at 11:40 in the morning. He was from Lake Park, Iowa. His dad owned a 70-acre farm adjacent to a large lake just west of Lake Park, Iowa. His parents were Jeff and Marlis Staley. At about 11:20 that morning, Mrs. Staley allowed Justin to go outside to play with his dog, Sandy. And every day he and the dog played, had fun. They were like best buddies. One didn't go anywhere without the other. So about 10 minutes later, Mom goes outside to call Justin in for lunch. He and Sandy were gone. Well, they were playing on the front porch of the house on the farm. So she yells for him, nothing, doesn't hear any barking, no sounds. She searches for an hour, gets her husband, they both search together, nothing. And about 2 o'clock, they called the sheriff, so they almost immediately arrived. In fact, the sheriff, Wendell Kiltz, arrived himself and immediately started calling for reinforcements because there were cornfields all the way around this farm. And they got about 300 locals, volunteer firefighters, etc., to come in and help with the search. So it was getting massive quickly. The sheriff had a feeling that he's going to need more help. So at 5 o'clock, he made a call to St. Louis, Missouri for a special bloodhound to come out. And as this was going on, over 100 people stayed until 2 in the morning, continued searching, calling Justin's name, etc. Now, it's important to note that at 11:40, the mom went out, searching, looking, couldn't find him. Got the husband. At 1 o'clock, Sandy the dog returned. Remember what we talked about, dogs returning, especially with young kids. Well, the next day, September 4th, the sheriff had known about this specific superstar dog in St. Louis called Sir Joe. Very famous canine. Dog had a national reputation for finding everyone it ever looked for. And that morning, the dog got there and was given the scent at the front of the home. And it walked down the driveway, stopped, walked in circles as though it was confused, and it laid down. Now, I've been involved in hundreds of canine searches because the canines were assigned to our SWAT team when I was there. And I never have seen a dog do that. Ever. Never. And I'm sure it surprised the handler to no end that this superstar dog just gave up. Obviously couldn't find a scent trail. Well, the handler pulled the dog off, gave it a break. And in the meantime, the sheriff had spoken to the school district, and they closed the junior high and the high school early and sent all the students by bus to the farm to assist on the search. The sheriff had set up a search on a 3-mile radius from the front porch of the home. And he had a map of the area. And the sheriff, a couple searchers, and the family walked the perimeter of the farm. Part of that perimeter dealt with a very high fence between he and the ranch next to him. It was agreed between the sheriff and the family that they wouldn't search that area, and they would search the radius around the other parts of the farm. Well, the students, working under the direction of the sheriff, searched nonstop until 8 o'clock that night. And then they were asked to come back the next day, which the majority of them did. September 5th. Estimated 3,000 to 4,000 people showed up at the Staley farm. Unbelievable number. The sheriff again broke the ranch down into grids, assigned people to search, and they searched shoulder to shoulder through the cornfields. They even took machinery apart where they thought maybe Justin could crawl into it. 2 new bloodhounds arrived from Sioux City and one from Storm Lake. Each were put on the scent, same location, different times, and independently, those 2 dogs couldn't pick up the scent. Now, friends, that is pretty weird. Again, I've never heard of this. So they searched till near midnight. Nothing. Calling out Justin's name, looking for him, nothing. September 6th. A psychic hired by the family stated that Justin would be found close by. She stated that a blonde man driving a tractor drove right by the boy and didn't know it. Well, immediately, the family found who that tractor driver was, and all of the ground that he'd covered the previous day was searched again, and nothing was found. And in fact, the high school students stood 20 feet shoulder to shoulder as the driver told them where he had driven, and they searched to make sure they didn't miss anything. They had so many people on the farm that they started to have logistical issues. How do you feed that many people? How do you get them all enough water, coffee, etc.? Well, the local community donated $10,000 in food, water, etc. And to help pay for Sir Joe's flight out, which was expensive. At about this time, Jeff Staley, the dad, was told by the sheriff that they had no idea where now to search at the end of the third day. They had searched shoulder to shoulder through cornfields, through barns. They didn't know where else to go. And the sheriff told them that they didn't know what other direction to take. Jeff took that they were ready to terminate the search. And there were dozens of press people out there. It had gotten a lot of coverage. Well, Mr. Staley said, he started off his talk saying, "We won't find Justin alive." And it was communicated that the searchers were going home. A very somber tone to a three-day search for a 2-year-old little boy. So, interestingly, the location was right next to Spirit Lake. Spirit Lake is a place that we've searched many times across the U.S. Not this Spirit Lake, but different Spirit Lakes around. Now, why does a location get a name? I always wonder that. Now, here's Minneapolis. The location that we're talking about, Lake Park, was right next to Spirit Lake, and there's several lakes right in this area. So you kind of get an idea where we're talking about. So Jeff Staley talks to the press, essentially closing everything down. The sheriff starts to send people home. A man named George DeGroot, 25 years old, a local farmer to the Staleys, had been privately enlisting the help of 2 Arizona psychics as this was going on. He just didn't say anything to anybody, just was doing it on his own, wanted to figure out what was happening. The day before the search was closed down, the psychic tried to explain to DeGroot where Justin was located. They stated it was south of the farm on an adjacent farm. DeGroot had searched, didn't find anything. Called Staley's name, didn't find anything. Well, DeGroot calls the psychics back at the end of the search, or near the end of the search. And the psychic says, "Well, maybe my directions weren't so good. Let me try again." So 3,000 searchers covered a 3.5-mile radius. A helicopter with FLIR and 2 airplanes saw nothing. 3 canines, one of them being a world-class dog, found no scent trail. DeGroot got new directions, and he went into the farm south of the Staley's residence, and he went in on horseback. 9:50 that last night, at 6 o'clock, they called off the search. 9:50 that night, DeGroot is riding his horse and thought he heard crying. So he gets off the horse into a corn row and finds Justin laying face down on one of the last rows right near a creek. DeGroot said that Justin was initially scared, but looked fine. He grabbed the boy, put him on his horse, and rode the half-mile back to the Staley home. And he was eventually transported to Dickinson Hospital for observation. He was released the next morning in good condition. DeGroot explained that the boy was located on the farm where the family and the sheriff stated he could never get over that fence. My friends, that's a biggie. When a sheriff and a family and other searchers say that boy can't get over that fence, we don't need to search it. They know what a 2-year-old boy could and couldn't do. Now, why is this case super important? Well, first of all, a psychic found the boy, giving directions to a searcher. And let's go back and cover some of the points that are important on this. One, he's found adjacent to a creek. He disappeared with his dog Sandy, who came back about an hour and a half later. But we've talked about dogs coming back before, and especially dogs with young children. They tend to stay almost all the time with the child unless they can't. They had a helicopter with FLIR. This is the one that really, really gets me. So Justin is a half-mile from his farm. I guarantee the helicopter flew that area with the FLIR. How do you miss that? And I'm telling you that a person's body, who's alive, and Justin was, emits a very bright signal in amongst nothingness of the cornfield. You can't miss it. So how did they miss Justin? Right? 3 different canines. Okay, I can see 1 dog missing it. 2 dogs maybe. 3 dogs, no. How could the best dog in the nation with national known notoriety miss him? Miss the scent? I don't get it. And DeGroot didn't give up. He made 2 different trips looking. If the sheriff and the parents and searchers say that Justin didn't go over that fence, how did he get over the fence? Really? Why would Sandy go home after being gone with Justin for an hour and a half? Why? The hospital stated that Justin was in great health, just had a few insect bites. Something that DeGroot said that really ricocheted in my mind. Justin was found face down in the corn rows. Not a normal position to be found in. Not a normal position for anyone to be found in. People normally lay on their backs, on their sides, unless they're unconscious or semi-conscious. Now, Justin is German. We've talked about this many times. Reports specifically stated that Sir Joe, the dog, was walking in circles. This isn't normal, folks. Complete loss of direction by the dog. Not normal. Now, I've reported in many other incidents of dogs doing this on my cases. Why? The dog's confused. It's searching for the scent and it just went away. Why? How? Right. Now, middle of Iowa. We've talked about Iowa before. There are other cases very much like this in Iowa. And they're unexplainable. Being found next to water in thousands of acres of cornfield, I think is very odd. The chances are very unusual, and chances are very low that he'd be found right next to a creek. But yet that fits the 411 profile. This is a picture a couple days after Justin was found being with his dad. When Justin was brought back to the residence, DeGroot said that Justin's dad literally jumped 5 feet in the air and couldn't believe his boy was alive. I gotta admit that if the sheriff told me that they were giving up the search because there was no place else to look, I may also jump for joy if I was Mr. Staley. Now, why farms? Well, first of all, there's not a lot of people around, right? But canines should work really well in that atmosphere. And they don't. Helicopter with FLIR should be the optimum way to find a person in the middle of a cornfield. Absolutely. I've told you before that there was one day where I flew in the police department helicopter as the observer. And when we flew over baseball fields or etc., you could see people brightly lit up in the field. You can't miss them. The FLIR screen we had was large, and the FLIR we had at the time was some of the best in the world. I just can't explain it. Now, we've often talked about psychics. The psychic here wasn't even in the same state. They were clear across the nation. So it doesn't matter how close the psychic is to the family in relationship. Obviously not. This Arizona psychic didn't know the family. It doesn't matter how close geographically they are. They were in Arizona versus Iowa. So what's the key? It's not family relationship. It's not something close to the family. It's something else. And why are some psychics successful and others are not? I know a lot of you have strong opinions on this, and that's fine. But I really like it when we have these open discussions online under the comments section, and people are open to a variety of ideas. Because the court's still out on really what's going on with psychics. Nobody can really explain it. But let's talk about case number 2. 5-year-old boy named Thomas Kennedy went missing August 3rd, 1975. He lived in Oswego, New York with his mom and dad. And on August 3rd, he went to Lake Empire with other families and his mom to cool off. It was a hot summer day. So here's the Pennsylvania-New York border. This is a place called Straits Corner, Catatonk, New York. And this is where the family was from. Or this is where the family went to visit, right here, the lake. Very remote. There were several other lakes in the area. Hooper's Valley is directly south. So they go to the lake to play. We did this with our kids all the time. Wasn't a big deal. But I was one of those kind of dads, they never got out of my eyes. Well, Mrs. Kennedy lost sight of her son playing on the grass with other kids. He wasn't in the lake or near the lake. He was on the grass. She starts looking for him, gets other people to help. Everyone's about ready to go home, but people are helping to look. And at 7 o'clock that night, they call the Tioga County Sheriff, who arrives almost immediately and starts setting up a search. The sheriff decides to call out the local fire department for assistance and makes a call for all citizens in that area via radio, AM radio. Hey, we need help out here. They get about 100 people that first night, and they search till 2 in the morning. A lot of people were concerned with maybe the boys in the lake drowned. Mrs. Kennedy said her son was a really good swimmer, not to worry about that, and he wasn't near the lake. And some other kids said that he wasn't near the lake as well. Well, the next day, that night, the sheriff is setting up searches for the next day, getting local firefighters from different towns and areas, and trying to see if he can get canines in there. Well, the next day is August 4th. A firefighter who wasn't on duty and didn't go to the search that night before lived with a firefighter who was there, a man named Richard Clark. Richard came home that next morning very early and explained what happened. And Thomas went into his room by himself and drew a map. Drew a map of Empire Lake. And he started to get some kind of feeling about where the boy was. Well, at 5 a.m., Thomas and Richard, both firefighters, decide at Thomas's persistence, they needed to go to the lake. He thinks he could find the boy. Well, as he was in that room during the sketch, he told Richard that something in his head told him to read the 7th chapter in Jeremiah. He said it gave him strength. And he also said at the time, I felt the child was more dead than alive at that point at 5 a.m. And he said, maybe because the boy was sleeping, I don't know. I could just see him lying under a tree, not in the water. Well, firefighter Clark and Jordan went to the lake. Searchers were already set up as well as the parents. And they asked for one shoe that belonged to Thomas. His mom gave it to him. Jordan, the firefighter, says that he used something called psychometry. And that's when a psychic carries a possession of the missing. Well, he had a photo of Thomas, and he also had the shoe. So at 5:45 a.m., firefighters Jordan and Clark start off at the lake, at the search zone. And Jordan said it was almost like getting pulled by a magnet. where he was going. People said he didn't deviate. He left the search headquarters and he went with his firefighter friend through the woods. And he said that every time he touched the sneaker, he was getting pulled in the direction that he felt it wanted him to go. You could tell, he says, right away, every time when I started to get off course, I'd retouch the sneaker and it would give me the strength to know I was going the right way. The group walked a 1.5 mile path from the search area through the woods down into a ravine before they found Thomas laying under a tree in his bathing suit. He was in good shape. Nobody had searched this area because it was too far away. Let me tell you, every search manual in the world would say that a 5-year-old could easily be found within a 2-mile radius of the point they were last seen. That's not even a question. That's absolute confirmation. But he's found next to a lake, in close proximity to the lake. Water. So why did Jordan have these feelings? Why was he referred to a Bible verse? It never said that firefighter Jordan had any history of searching for missing people or looking for missing people. But in this instance, he did. There was never any discussion about what Thomas said to his mom, about how he got lost, anything like that. It was just, the boy was in good shape. He was found early that next morning. All was well. Missing about 12 hours in total. But it was pretty obvious from the story, there's no way Thomas would have been found so quickly if it wasn't for firefighter Jordan and his psychic abilities. Again, a non-relative, didn't know the boy. Why was a message given to him? Or why did that shoe resonate with him about the direction to go? One last story. So we talked about the first 2 incidents involved young boys, 1-2, 1-5. This involves an elderly woman named Cora Heard. Missing August 5th, 1992 at 7 p.m. from a nursing home north of I-30 outside of Benton, Arkansas. So here's Little Rock. Here's Benton. I-30 runs between the two cities. And the nursing home was just on the outskirts of the city north of I-30. There's really nothing out here. Swamps, mosquitoes. So you kind of get the feeling of what it is, where it is. All right? Oops. Huck, what are you doing? Oh, I heard you yawn. You're a good girl. Well, she goes missing August 5th about 7 p.m. Nobody's sure how she disappeared. Every once in a while, people just disappear from nursing homes. Didn't say that she had any dementia or memory issues. In fact, it didn't say much at all about Cora. But the Saline County Sheriffs organized a search for her, utilizing people from the home, deputies, firefighters, local residents. The area around the home had swamps, bogs, thick cover. The first day they found nothing. Nobody was even sure where they last saw her. That's how vague this was. Second day, same thing, search gets bigger. Everyone's concerned for her safety. They said generally her health was good, but they couldn't figure out where she might have went. Third day, same thing, they eventually give up. Well, the nursing home, I think, must have felt guilty that they lost her. And they hire a woman named Carol Pate, who's a psychic who lives in the surrounding community, to go help look for her. Carol said, I think I can find her. So Cora disappeared on August 5th. On August 8th, Carol went with the Benton Police Department to direct them where Cora was located. Carol went almost directly to a spot, pointed out into a field, and says she's right there. Deputies went out, got wet, found Cora alive. She was muddy from head to toe and was taken by ambulance to the hospital and later released that night in good condition. Amazing. It's amazing that she was alive. So my question is, on all of these cases, what emanates from someone's personal belongings that can assist a psychic in finding that person? A shoe, a photo. Remote viewers use a photo in an envelope that they can't see into. They just hold it. So what emanates from the photo or from that shoe? I know we can think, well, maybe it's some part of its soul, or I don't know. Does it matter if the person wants to be found? And I bring this up on two instances. What if the person was suicidal? They don't want to be found. Does that assist or not help the psychic in their ability to find the person? And better yet, what if the person is a murderer? They don't want to be found. They're on the run. You don't hear about psychics being used too often. I've heard about them being used, but not all that often, to find somebody that's a bad guy. So does that matter? The feelings that this person's putting off. I don't want to be found, or I do want to be found. In Thomas's case, missing from a lake outing with his mom. Jordan, the firefighter, said at one point, it felt like the boy may be dead. Turns out he was probably sleeping. So how would sleeping affect the psychic energy felt by the psychic? And if the person was sleeping, would it send out inappropriate vibes to the psychic? Meaning, should the psychic only try to work the case during the day when the person's awake? I don't know. There's a lot of ambiguity to this psychic thing. And to me, in just the times I've talked to you about missing people being found by psychics being used, etc., it sounds like psychics don't have, the majority of them, don't get a long history of success. It seems like there are these individual times where almost like something attaches to their persona and says, find me. But over the course of a lifetime, you don't hear about psychics having long-term success. Yes, there are those ones that are in the newspaper, and yeah, they claim they have all this success, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Well, but the reality of it is, I can only peg individual instances. Remote viewers. I don't have much faith in remote viewers. Too many of them have told me too many things that can never be substantiated, and they never found anybody. And I will swear to you that I've been at conferences and I've heard their stories, and they are the best stories in the world. But they can never be substantiated. If you were truly a great RVer, remote viewer, and you had these special skills, can you imagine all the greatness you could do by finding people that were missing? Yeah. All of the families that would just hug and love you to death for finding their loved ones? Yeah. So I can't explain it, folks. I wish I could. Maybe one of you can, but I'll read your comments. And these cases, especially ones where the canines can't find a clue, turn around and walk in circles. Dead on 411 cases. Found next to a creek. Found in an area that searchers didn't even want to go into because they didn't think you could get over the fence. Think about it. You could do us a huge favor. And I'm seriously asking you to do this now. Email some friends. Say, hey, this guy does some interesting work. You might want to watch his cases. Some of you don't have social media, so I just ask you to email friends. I ask you to put it on your social media if you have it. We need to build the database again because we're getting leveled right now. So anything you can do to help us, I would really appreciate it. In the meantime, kindness costs nothing. It's free. A smile, a caring look, stopping to help somebody who needs help. All things we should do. Somebody would be greatly appreciated if you did. It would make their day. Lastly, I get comments probably once a month, twice a month from people saying, Dave, keep talking about mental health. You've helped me so much. In a time of great depression, you pulled me out of it. Wow. That makes my heart putter. Thank you. And remember, if you know somebody that needs help, that's having a mental health issue, contact NAMI, N-A-M-I. Go on Google it. There's NAMI locations throughout the U.S. It's a great organization. The best class I ever took was for 12 weeks was through them. So, please do it. In the meantime, love your family. Huck is laying here. She's ready to get out. She says, Dad, are you done yet? Huck, look at that. Let's look at the side eye. You ready to go outside? You ready to go? She goes, don't screw with me, Dad. You guys have a great day. Paulides out.